right, and welcome to the latest episode of Enterprising Minds. Dave, Ruthi, and Alex, whole crew are here. Alex, you're bringing the topic, so I'll kick it off to you.
Probably an unusual topic for me to present, or at least start, but hopefully one both of you will take off and do well with. But the topic is just kind of a post-COVID environment. It was just kind of an odd conversation that we were just having as we're walking around basically a different corporate campus of understanding how have things changed. And one of the main things that we'd noticed was basically how had clothing styles changed and expectations changed. There's some upcoming actually in-person stuff that I'll be doing with some teams who are flying in, and they've been asking like, okay, what's workwear considered today? And that was a really good question because it was, well, and there was guys asking me, I'm sure there was other conversations going on as well, but it was trying to understand how have things changed? How have things changed for you? Do you have certain habits that you've kind of picked up and used to kind of make this remote world work easier for you? Have you changed your closet? Have you donated a ton of stuff? What have you done? So I'll kick it over to either one of you who can take it from there.
Ruthi, why don't you go first?
Volunteered away.
I've been volunteered. That's fine. I'm back. All right. Lots of thoughts on this one because it's been so nice over the last 3 years or so of primarily working at home to not have to think or worry about that aspect of day to day. There's the entire hassle of actually getting into the office, which if you have children or other obligations outside of work becomes a much more difficult deal. And it's been a very nice 3 years of not doing that. This what to wear to work thing is an added layer. And one of the things that I've noticed is that particularly at within the work environment I've been in, and maybe this is likely true of other environments too, you get a sense of what the culture is.
Now we enter into the other piece of remote work, tech issues.
Yeah, so Ruthi's got some technical issues, so I'll just do my side of things. I have thought more about this, despite the way I look, and it's been interesting. So I have gone through my closet. Part of it is just going through different ages and stages and realizing, okay, being the dad now, there's lower stakes for how you should look. But I don't want that as an excuse. So I have been looking through my closet and getting it through. I've had a number of conversations with some guy friends of mine about modular outfits and how they're trying to reduce their closets to that, where they only have like, I don't know, 3 black shirts and 2 blue ones, and then they basically differentiate by the coat or the jacket or whatever else they put on top. I think that's an interesting idea, but the big thing for me really is, who am I talking to? Right? In my current position, being in a global role, there's very much that different expectation culturally, globally. So I'm playing more to that than I would previously. But then for the in-person thing, I did find myself in a very, very delayed holiday party recently. And I decided that I was going to just dress to the nines because a lot of these people hadn't seen me in 4 years. It was an official thing, and why not? I have all the stuff. Some of it I need to see if it still fits because, I'm not going to be wearing a suit when I'm at home. So yeah, I think, again, it's always context dependent, but I've taken it more as a, how do I want to be perceived? And do I want to be taken seriously? So if I know I'm only having a meeting with my team, that might be a little more relaxed than if I'm talking to somebody in Asia that I need them to take me seriously, and I don't want that friction there of, just any reason to introduce, any kind of cognitive resistance. So I will shut up because I feel like I'm stumbling, even though there was a point there.
Well, let me expand it a little bit. So you mentioned some outside the U.S. styles and kind of how you're kind of trying to fit to those. Mm-hmm. As the either interviewer or interviewee for roles, or by meeting two new team members who are from different areas, does that affect your kind of context of what you're going to wear on that particular meeting?
Yes. In this sense, I have some very old school ideas around presenting yourself. If you're going to show up to something like an interview, you're going to be on your best behavior, and you're going to be wearing something nice, because that is part of showcasing yourself, right? And it might not be what you wear every day to that job, but when it mattered, you showed up and you did what you needed to do. Sure. Now, does that mean you're in a suit and tie for your interview? No, because that might be culturally inappropriate for the role, right? If you're in a tech kind of interview, you're not going to be doing that. If you're in a creative kind of interview, that might not be there, but you could do a blazer and a t-shirt, right? Do the agency dress up. That'd be fine. But it at least shows that you are willing to be adaptable to the situation. So I'm happy to debate that if any of you want to jump in on that, or we can aggressively agree like we typically do.
I think that one of the things that has shifted dramatically in the last few years, and it'll tie back to your last comment, Dave, is I have placed way more an emphasis on I'm just going to dress as I am, or like dress for myself, right? I don't have to experience as many of perhaps what you've described in your global role of meeting with folks from around the world who have different cultural expectations around business. So part of it is just the culture that I'm in. I get to come as I am, so to speak. And when it comes to those sort of key moments of like, oh, okay, maybe we've got to step it up a notch. To me, it's been more of a shift of, okay, we're just going to elevate the thing that I already do, right? So I'm not going to drastically shift into, a pantsuit. That's not my style.
Right.
It makes me uncomfortable. I don't feel as confident when I show up in a pantsuit, because that's not my go-to. But it'll be more of an elevated version of what I already do. Maybe it's a nicer pant, or maybe it's okay, we're going to toss on a nicer jacket, or making sure the shoes are on point, something like this.
Right.
Which then brings me into a related topic, which is, boy, that's a lot of clothes, and that's exhausting. And I'm also not particularly interested in that anymore.
I have a very large part of my heart devoted to accessories. I love accessories. If I had disposable cash, I would have probably like 3 pairs of glasses and 6 watches. And why? No reason. Just cause. That's the impulse. But at least I'm aware of it so that I can avoid it. Hugo Boss, insert ad here. And I'm thinking about this through kind of that personal brand and reputational perception kind of thing, because that's usually where my head goes. And I found myself not just with the clothing, but also with all of the other things. As soon as the pandemic hit, I went and I got the 4K camera. I got a really nice microphone. Was that perfectly necessary for doing team meetings? No, but I wanted to make sure that no matter what, the sound quality was good and the video was good, so that there was never a perception of poor quality in anything with what I was doing. It might be a subconscious thing, but that was important to me. So I did that. And I'm wondering if that ends up either completely turning you guys off, or if you think similarly around those things, or don't think about them at all.
I think that gets back down actually to what Ruthi was saying in regards to clothing and confidence. I mean, my knowledge of microphones is about zero. So the difference between a good one and a bad one is if it's on or off, I guess, if it works. That's about it. Like very, very limited knowledge in terms of audio quality and also what is good quality versus poor quality, right? So I wouldn't necessarily know the difference between those two things. With a piece of clothing, there are some things that I do know, and those standards I would apply, and I would want to make sure I have a shirt that fits those standards, because again, even if it's not well seen, I mean, I commonly layer with sweaters, V-neck sweaters over stuff. That's kind of my style. It has been for a long time. But it still is a confidence breaker for me. Like wearing a dress shirt that's really unkempt and really wrinkly gets me. Like even if it's a t-shirt that's really wrinkled, it's hard for me to feel as confident as I would, especially if there were social situations or, like a work meeting, something like that. So I don't know, for me, there's definitely a confidence piece there that applies to equipment, to clothing, to, how you look.
What's that Deion Sanders quote? Look good, feel good, play good, pay good. Yeah.
Sounds about right.
Something like that. But I think the confidence thing is true. I mean, if you're going to do better, you have to do that. And actually, I've been thinking about this in terms of the age of AI and all of those headlines that you're seeing all over the place. And we've discussed this previously as well. But it's how do you stand out if the bottom half can now get to where, what was typically considered average because of the capabilities of AI for writing or whatever else. For me, the little things count more now. The harder things count more now. So being on video, being on a podcast, having the nicer equipment so that there isn't that quality piece there. Those things jump out to me as a way to differentiate yourself and your personal brand. Not that everybody needs one, but when you're in an organization and everybody's doing everything now, do those things matter more?
And I think it's the leaning into those things that you're excited about, interested in, care about, that is sort of at the heart of that, right? Is it the case that the sort of higher quality equipment, video, et cetera, is going to make sense for everybody, or is going to be the thing that sets them apart? No. Part of the reason that's important and that sort of fits within what you do, Dave, is because you care about it. And so that's just another emphasis on the things you care about. And so to me, it's more of a leaning into all the things that get you excited, because that's where, that confidence comes through, certainly, but also that's where you want to spend your time in. That's of value.
Yeah.
An interesting one for you. And I would like to know your guys' opinion on this one, because I've come up with this theory, and maybe it's completely wrong, but I would love to hear it.
Sweater vests are never correct.
Damn. Oh, you want that Mr. Rogers look? Like it's comforting. My question is basically when it gets a little bit in personal brand, but also in appearance and kind of just overall professionalism at work. And I think this is fairly general, neutral of a statement, but also in basically any environment, it's pretty neutral as well, is appearance in terms of professionalism is consistency. And what this came from was I have facial hair. I've changed my beard style actually a number of times throughout my career. Each time, though, whenever it's a dramatic change or something like that, I question it and I'm nervous about it, thinking like, I want to make this change about myself, but this might seem a little weird to those around me because they're going to have to kind of get used to the new face, basically. How much do they think about that? Probably not very much at all. And a lot of that's probably just going to be in my head with my own, confidence level on it. Mm-hmm. But what I realized was, especially with those who kind of radically change their style from week to week or month to month, professionalism and consistency. I don't know. Do you see that as being like detrimental if you were to change your style a lot, or kind of be still kind of finding your style? So you're like really radically changing your clothing, everything style? Or do you think like there's some acceptance level there, which is kind of where my belief came from, was you could wear basically whatever you want, but if you do it consistently, people accept it and they move on.
I really like that angle. I think you're onto something there of, if your thing is wearing a bright red shirt, going from like every day of wearing gray to then all of a sudden wearing bright red shirt, that's going to strike a chord.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a good chord, right? Maybe there's a special presentation and that makes sense. But if it's a sort of an average day or something like this, maybe that strikes a chord in a way that doesn't necessarily make sense. I think it's a good point of like, that consistency is, hey, people know, okay, that's the person. It's a remembering thing of that's the person who wears the red shirt, right? Even if it's just on the subconscious sort of level. But I don't know. I think you're onto something there, Alex, about consistency and professionalism, because you give people what to expect, and people like to know what to expect.
Yeah,
right?
That's the thing. That's what it gets down to. I think honestly, it's almost like a kind of baseline stereotype of their perception of who you are, what you do, is tied to your dress. So if you're a developer, you can totally show up with a sweatshirt when everybody else is wearing a dress shirt. That's allowed. That's just widely accepted. If you're creative, you can wear crazy jewelry, hairstyles, you name it, and you can be the one who is doing that versus everybody else on a call, and that's also accepted and expected. If you're the project manager who does that, it suddenly becomes a question. And it's like, why does the role have to matter? But it somehow does, because a project manager is all about the consistency, punctuality, basically on-time aspect of a project.
And I think that's not a normative claim that you're making. That's not this is how it should be. I think you're making sort of a positive statement of this is how the world tends to be. And this kind of is sort of under the layer, whether or not it should or shouldn't be. This is something that is part of how we think about roles in the workplace.
Yeah. And I think that personal brand element plays pretty hard in that aspect too, because I've seen and heard too many comments about appearances and stuff like that. And to me, it's like, I don't care. I honestly really don't care. So that's where I kind of came up with this of like, why does this become a thing? And it only seems to become a thing when there's a lot of change. Aside from that, nobody seems to really care.
So my mind goes to the other side of that, where it's the there's a level of mistrust of someone who looks too perfect.
Oh, that's interesting. Intimidation, or do you think just like...
No, it's not intimidation. I'm more curious what they're covering for.
Oh,
where it's okay, cool. You can dress the part. You can say the right words. You can do that, but can you do the work?
Huh.
Because there are some people that are able to talk their way up the ladder, and you know what? Good on you. Eventually you're going to fall though, because you're not able to do the work. And there are a lot of people who can do the work, but don't have the skill set or the mindset for the other things. So then they reach a ceiling, right? There are a number of people that come to mind where I'm like, what are you running from? Won't name names. They'll stay in my head. But yeah, I think there's both ways. I will just say for the record, I don't really care what you show up to, so long as you're on time, respectful, and you can do the work. Otherwise, like I'm hiring you for your mind. I'm not hiring you for the other stuff. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking before I get myself in trouble. Please respond.
Bias in the workplace and where it comes from.
I think this is so. All of the little nuances that both of you have brought up are just they're so important to this conversation, because it's sort of the like honest under the current. Hey, these are all the dynamics that you have, whether you think about them or not, are part of the everyday workplace, be it corporate or small business, right? These are things that are there. You can pay attention to them. You can opt out of paying attention to them, but they are present, and it's good to talk about them. And I think what the pandemic did is it threw a giant wrench into everything that we were used to and sort of the expectations that we set. And so I don't know where I cut off earlier, but this is sort of what we're coming back to of, hey, as we get into the office, be it in a hybrid version once a week or just the occasional in office, a lot of our sort of norms and expectations were just shattered. They're out the window. And so now we've got to refigure out, what does it mean? And I think there's been a current within a lot of the business trends of, hey, show up as you are, encourage your employees to show up as they are, because they're going to bring sort of their unique skill sets. And I like that emphasis because it takes us out of the group thing. There used to be a day where you'd walk around one of the workplaces I was at, and literally everyone was in button-down shirts and khakis. Talk about groupthink. I mean, it sort of set the tone for this is how we do things, and there's not really a deviation. Now, I say that, and I'm going to put in a giant asterisk, which is, boy, am I a fan of uniforms. You know why? Because I don't have to think about them. And that's great. So I can see that there's a lot of pluses to having sort of a norm and a set expectation for two reasons. One is because it takes the day-to-day pressure off of what am I going to do? What am I going to wear? How am I expressing myself today? That's exhausting. I don't have time for that. The other piece that I think I like playing with different sides of a coin. So the other piece that it brings is, if you're a new employee, if you are coming from a different culture and you're joining into a workplace culture, it is really valuable that you know what the expectations are for what to wear to work, because otherwise you have to figure out the under the surface games that everybody's playing about what they wear. And that's a significant disadvantage to junior people and people who perhaps didn't grow up in the area in which they're working. So I'm just going to leave that to you guys to discuss.
Dave, anything for?
Yeah, two thoughts. One, I find myself like revolting on the uniform piece.
Dave. No.
Yeah, I know. I will tell you where that comes from. I'll give you a story. Yeah. But secondly, I forgot the second thing. Okay, so we'll go back to the first one. I remember as a kid standing in the church we went to and looking around and seeing these like 25-year-old guys with the baby carriers in khakis and plaid button-downs. And I remember thinking, you're too young for that. And this is like when I'm 7, I was thinking this, like, why are you dressing like it's over? Because the 65-year-old is wearing the same thing and you're only 25.
Dressing like it's over.
You know, like same thing, like sweatpants are the death of desire. It's just, you know, you've given up. Like, don't leave the house in them, you know? That's my own view, and I will plant that flag. And so it was funny because I was talking to a guy friend of mine the other week, and we were talking about fashion, and there's a nice thing about the idea of the dad at the barbecue wearing a stupid shirt and jean shorts that don't fit, like, because there's zero expectation on that guy. And you know what? He's probably really happy to be having everybody in the backyard hanging out, right? Like that's a good way to live. However, I don't want to look like that. I'm not going to wear plaid. I'm not going to wear any kind of Hawaiian shirt. I'm not, because I still have hope for me. But that's also just how I don't choose to present myself that way, right? I'm not about to wear a mustache anytime either, because I have strong feelings on mustaches. So it's easy to fall into, what am I going to wear on the weekends? Oh, I'll just do the polo and the whatever else, because that's what I have for work. And I spend more time at work in work clothes. I will just continue to wear them because that's what's in my closet. And to me, that's sin. And you shouldn't do that.
I do that. And I'll tell you why. Because there used to be a time where I didn't do that. And you know what? I ended up with a closet that was exhausting to go through and look at and try and figure out. And worse, it was very difficult when it was like, oh, I need a new pair of pants. Am I going to buy a pair of pants that goes with my weekend clothes or my work clothes? Do I have to try and make both of them? Like, that's just a lot of extra mental load that I don't have time for. And so as much as possible these days, I try to make sure that, like, if I've got sort of a mock neck going on, it works with what I want to wear on the weekends, a pair of shorts, and what I want to wear at work, a nice pair of pants. And if I've got a jacket, I want to make sure it goes with both, because I just don't have the extra bandwidth.
And so the other part of that conversation with the friend was that modular piece, or like how you set up to reduce that. Because for me, I get excited living in the North when it's fall, winter, spring, because that's what my closet is set up for.
True story.
Summer sucks.
Thanks.
Just get through it. You look good when it's fall, right? But so I have it set so that I don't have to think about the pants, because it's basically color. The fit's the exact same. The style's the exact same. Am I going to do a t-shirt with something? Yes or no? Or am I going to take a risk like I did today and do the sweater thing to maybe match Alex accidentally? I'm going to roll the dice on that one, but it works out. And then because of that, I have it by color. So do I want the white, the red, the blue, or the black one? That's it. So I'm really only deciding type and color in the morning. And it's mostly a feeling as soon as I roll out of bed. I know what kind of day it is. But that's because I'm a nerd and I pay attention to that kind of stuff. Yeah. Alex, since you are very much associated with sweaters and collared shirts, time for you to join the confessional.
Yeah, I was like, I really want to say this. Because surprise, surprise, mine's about efficiency and scale. No, I'm kidding. It's actually pretty close to that, though. It's actually, that's probably sadly a good summary. So in the morning, t-shirt and jeans, I get my kids ready. I drop them off to daycare. Literally yesterday, my son ate a banana and I realized that my shoulder then had banana on it. Literally under 10 minutes after I put that shirt on. And I was like, that's about right. That's a burn for him. So that's what I always wear during the day. And my evenings typically are the same because I'm running around with my kids, DIY stuff, college shirts, not a part of it. Sweaters, not a part of it either. So those are out. So up my lovely office, basement, back to where the kids are playing. That's the utility room over there. Mm-hmm. In there, I have a coat rack. And on my coat rack, I have many hangers of sweaters and shirts all set up. And I literally just pick one that I haven't worn recently. And my t-shirt goes in that utility room. I throw on whatever it is. I do the meeting. I go back. I put it back on a hanger. I grab my t-shirt again. I wear that for the rest of the day. I literally just... Alex. And also, why sweaters and shirts? This is all the way back to Coco days. It's because you don't have to iron them. If the collars never have to be ironed and cuffs never have to be ironed, they don't wrinkle. So if you can throw a sweater over the rest of it, you never have to iron your shirts again. And that helps my mornings a lot. So that's why I did my sweater like years ago.
My one hack for not wanting to dress up is to have the emergency sport coat.
Yeah, throw it
so in my closet over here or on the chair, I have my emergency hoodie. So again, if I'm talking to one group of people, it's the hoodie. Another group of people, it's the
sport coat. Yeah. I never got into the sport coat thing. I could totally do that. But then again, back to the ironing thing, not going to do it.
Alex, I can fully sympathize with your, I start the morning in one thing and then we shift later. Same deal. Because if I wear a nice shirt, there will be yogurt stains on it.
Yep.
That's the reality of life at the moment.
Right.
And so we work around it.
Parents can't have nice things.
Yeah. Try to have nice things. Well, that from a laundry perspective, try to cut that down as much as possible because it's just, again, keeping up with the rest of everything else. The more I can basically make this easy on myself, that's the way I'm going to do it. So
it's funny because being on video conference calls has changed what I approach. So fewer stripes because that just doesn't look good on camera.
No white background or no white shirts, no cream shirts for me because I will match my background.
And it's funny with when we talked about going out into the real world with the parties and whatever else, my background has done more for people remembering me than anything I said at work, because I'll show up to other places and they're like, "Oh, you're the guitar guy." Yep. So it's like having the generic background that's totally safe for work does not help with, anybody remembering what you say, because there's not that thing to stick in their brain. Right.
Yeah. Personality trait of some sort, some hobby.
Playing off of that, I also tend to get a ton of remarks because these pictures are quite large, especially compared to my frame. So people, when they first meet me, they'll, "Oh, I love your pictures. That's great." And usually my response, which is, of course, an honest one, is I have to look at myself on camera all day. I might as well look at something that I like in the background as well. That's a huge part of our new world is we are not just looking at our computer screens. We are looking back at ourselves constantly. And that's also a shift, I think. I don't know how it's changed me. I haven't really reflected on that, if at all. But I do want to have a nice background because at the very least, I get to look at it.
Well, and as a generic bald white guy with a beard, there's only so much you can do to dress that up to make it interesting, because there's very limited options, really, honestly. So yeah, interesting.
I do have a change of.
Yeah,
I do. I don't know if it's a final. This might open up a new one. Hopefully it's not too long. But this is something that I've thought a lot about. And so the pandemic happened at the same time that I had our first kid. And I've since had another. And so not only do we have the pandemic where we shift to at home, but I went through this amazing, awful, wonderful, all the words combined period in which my wardrobe changed like over and over and over again, which is exhausting. So part of my the exacerbation you've heard me speak about with the getting dressed thing has to do with that, which is having to rethink it and adapt. And that can get tiring over time. But one of the things that I've noticed, which I think is true within the fashion world, but it probably is true elsewhere, it's like there's a continuous flow of trends, fashion, people's norms, cultural norms, etc., and it continues to evolve. And something like the pandemic, or in my case, pregnancy, the whole postpartum period, etc., threw me out of that flow. Mm-hmm. And now I find myself coming in later in the flow and being totally out of touch and out of, like, I don't have the context for how things have changed because I was thrown out of the flow of culture, so to speak. And there's some ways you can stay into it, right? You can go on the Instagrams, you can go on the TikToks. Those have their sort of downsides elsewhere. And exacerbating it is the fact that we're not in the office. And so I go in and I have no idea what the thing is. And bonus points, I don't know if you guys noticed, skinny jeans are way out. No good. Now we need a different style of pants with a different style of shoe. Mm-hmm. And it's just been fascinating to observe what sort of a removal from the cultural conversation has done and how curious and tricky it is to get back into that cultural conversation in a way that I can still go, yeah, I'm part of the cultural conversation, but this is also still like, this is me. This is how I want to show up every day. And this is what makes me feel confident.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, as a guy with broad shoulders, I can't do skinny jeans because I look like Gru. Yeah. No, I think it was interesting. Like, what was it last year, Ruthie? You and I were talking about the Milan Fashion Week, and
so, yeah.
I remember looking at the Versace and the Gucci and all the designers that were trying to do cool stuff, and going, "Oh my God, that looks like the couch my dad had in the 70s." You know, so it's like, that's not evolving. We're regressing to ideas that previously worked. It's just new, shinier material, you know, where it's just like, no way in hell am I going to be seen in that. So yeah, it's interesting. I have my solution to what you said, because I do think kids have a wonderful way of just getting rid of the BS. Because you just don't have time for it, like you said. For me, what's become important is what are the kind of the classics? Because I can either try to keep up with it, or I can get 2 or 3 nice pieces that will look really good. And so, like, my challenge to myself this winter was to do more with the sort of pea coat that I had instead of the kind of ratty leather jacket that is a wonderful windbreak, but doesn't necessarily look that good. So the way I've been able to do that is to then accessorize with a couple of scarves. So I have a really nice thin one. I have a really nice knitted heavy one that's super long that I can wear to the bus stop and take all the wind, you know, that's whipping around the bus stop with my son. And that's been an interesting change, you know, because then it's more of, if you view fashion more as an investment rather than the fast fashion thing, which I've never bought into, I would rather have 3 or 4 nice pieces that last for a while, than a $20 H&M thing that's going to last maybe 6 months, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's it. I mean, there's also, like you said, like getting rid of the BS, but the attention span for that. How often do I find myself in a mall? Never. How often do I find myself like shopping for clothes? Very rarely. Like, yeah, there's some consistency of, you know, work and culture and age. I mean, speaking of that, kind of just different age groups as well. There's less pressure right now to continually kind of be up on fashion. Like during college or high school, absolutely, I was caring a lot about fashion. Since then, it's dropped every year probably.
Right, because you're married. You don't have to peacock anymore, man.
That's what it was all about, man. I mean, you're done. As you said to those guys in church, like, they're done.
Exactly. Yeah.
V-necks until I'm done, man. That's it. Just V-necks.
I mean, there's something to be said about being the old guys getting coffee in the morning in the diner. Like, I kind of look forward to those years with, what friends are left. But at the same time, I don't need to look that way yet.
And if you enjoy and find fun and confidence through what you wear, then yeah, spend some time with it. Enjoy it. Like, if you don't care at all, fine. That's cool too. I mean, do your own thing.
Interesting conversation. Hopefully it resonates with some of you. I know it's not necessarily a marketing or digital business thing, but it is an important part of the business world we're operating in now. So a fun deviation from all the other stuff. Let us know what you think, thoughts, comments, questions, any closet hacks you might have. Let us know. Emails in the description. And yeah, we will see you in the next episode of Enterprising Minds. Take care.
Cheers.
Cheers.